The world of Roman politics in the 1st century BC was a fiercely competitive arena. This is no surprise, given that hundreds of the wealthiest men in Rome and throughout Italy were competing for only a select number of political offices every year. The Senate, Rome's governing body, was made up of about 600 men. These were the elite of the elite, with property worth at least 400,000 sesterces. All had once been elected by the Roman people in the popular assemblies, and had subsequently been enrolled into the Senate for life. The life of a Roman aristocrat was geared towards a successful political career. From a very young age, they were educated with a particular focus on their own family's role in the history of the Roman Republic. They were also encouraged to equal or even surpass the achievements of their ancestors. Their first experience of politics may be accompanying a male relative about their business in the forum. The more curious amongst them could also watch their elders debating in the Senate House, for the doors were left wide open when the Senate was in session. Young aristocrats may have supplemented their traditional education by journeying with a male relative or family friend to a province as a tent companion or contubernalis. The next generation always learned by watching their elders and by getting hands-on experience. From around the age of 20, a young aristocrat could become a military tribune in the Roman army. Each legion typically had 6 military tribunes. These men were originally elected by the Roman people to serve as deputies. But by the 1st century BC, most were probably appointed by the commanders of the armies themselves. Once again, having relatives or family friends in high places was a great advantage. Military experience in some capacity, on paper for a period of at least 10 years, was a minimum requirement for a man aspiring for a political career back in Rome, where politicians and generals were one and the same. From the age of 30, a man could seek election for the first time as a Quaestor. This was the first formal step on Rome's ladder of political offices, the so-called Cursus Honorum. 20 Quaestors were elected each year to oversee state finances in Rome and in the provinces. 2 Quaestors were assigned to the city of Rome itself to administer the state treasury in the Temple of Saturn. Here they would supervise tax collection and authorize payments. The rest were assigned to a provincial governor at random by selecting lots. Though the Quaestor's role here also had financial duties, which included supervising the payment of the legions, they also acted as political interns and military deputies. As the governor's second in command, they would perform any task assigned to them. Once a Quaestor's year-long term was up, he was automatically enrolled into the Roman Senate for life, so long as he continued to meet the financial requirements and avoided any scandals that would see him expelled. From the age of 36, a senator may next wish to stand for the position of Aedile. This was not a compulsory step to take on the Cursus Honorum, but it was a position that could benefit a man's political career and win massive support with the people. 4 aediles were elected each year. 2 were the so-called curule aediles, who were drawn from a list that included both patrician and plebeian candidates. The other 2 were the so-called plebeian aediles, who, as the title suggests, were elected strictly from amongst the plebeians. The duties of the aediles were exclusive to the city of Rome. They oversaw the cleaning and maintenance of roads, sewers, and aqueducts, the upkeep of temples and other public buildings, and they managed Rome's markets and grain supply. But perhaps most importantly, for an ambitious politician, aediles were responsible for organising festivals and public entertainments. Though they received some funding from the state treasury, aediles were expected to supplement this with their own money. In short, if an aedile had the money and was willing to spend it on lavish public spectacles, including games and feasts for the people, he could expect to do well in future elections. From the age of 39, a former Quaestor or Aedile could look to become a Praetor. This was the first senior magistracy on the Cursus Honorum, and so a Praetor was entitled to wear a distinct toga with a purple border, called the toga praetexta, which was believed to protect a person from harm. By the 1st century BC, 8 praetors were elected each year to oversee the law courts of Rome, with one taking the prestigious position of urban praetor. Trials were very public affairs in ancient Rome and took place in the Forum. The more scandalous cases involving high-profile names inevitably drew larger crowds, and so a praetor was very much in the public eye. As senior magistrates, the praetors also possessed imperium, the authority to command armies and dispense justice. Magistrates who possessed imperium were accompanied by ceremonial bodyguards and attendants called lictors, who carried the fasces. The fasces was a bundle of rods bound together around an axe, and it was the very symbol of a magistrate's imperium. The rods represented the authority to inflict corporal punishment, while the axe represented the authority to inflict capital punishment. Each praetor was assigned 6 lictors. A praetor would usually follow up his term in office by moving to a province as a governor, or propraetor. His province was once again determined by lot, and his term would last for 1 or sometimes 2 years, but rarely more than this. A successful military campaign could bring a governor great wealth with which to pay off debts or spend on future political campaigns. He may even be awarded the highest military honour of a triumph back in Rome. What better way to boost your own name and reputation for further political advancement? From the age of 42, a former praetor could hope to become a consul. The consulship was the pinnacle of the Cursus Honorum. They were the most senior magistrates in Rome, and, as only 2 were appointed each year, elections were always hard fought and highly competitive occasions. The consuls would lend their names to the year. 59 BC, for example, was the year of the consulship of Gaius Julius Caesar and Marcus Calpurnius Bibulus. Just like a praetor, a consul would wear a toga praetexta. To emphasize the consul's greater authority, or imperium, he would be accompanied by 12 lictors. Rome's political system was designed to prevent any one man from having too much power, and so there was no king, but 2 consuls instead. The way this worked in practice saw each consul take precedence, or hold fasces, in alternate months, usually starting with the consul who had received the most votes. During his month holding fasces, a consul would look to push his own legislation through the Senate and the popular assemblies. To check the power of the presiding consul, their consular colleague always had the right to veto and obstruct their legislation, though of course this was always a dangerous game to play and could cause a political stalemate. A period of 10 years was supposed to pass before a man could look to run for the consulship again, and so the pressure on the consuls to succeed, accomplish their objectives, and impress their peers and the people in the space of just a single year was enormous. Once a consul's term was up, he was expected to govern a province as a proconsul, just as he had done following his praetorship. This was designed to physically remove him from Rome, allowing the new consuls to work without the interference of their predecessors. A proconsular governorship was yet another chance to accumulate wealth and military glory. Though the consulship was the highest magistracy in Rome's political system, there remained a highly prestigious position open to former consuls. Every 5 years, 2 censors were elected to serve a slightly longer 18-month term. They possessed no imperium, and so were not accompanied by lictors, and could not lead armies. But in this prestigious position, they were entitled to wear a purple toga, called a toga purpurea. Censors were responsible for overseeing the Roman census, in which they registered Roman citizens and classified them according to their wealth. They also reviewed the list of senators and removed those individuals who were no longer worthy of being there, those who no longer met the financial requirements, or those who had behaved in a way that was deemed dishonourable. For all the division of power, Rome's political system did have a special political office reserved for emergencies. A decree by the Senate could appoint a dictator, usually nominated by the consuls, to rule for a period of no more than 6 months. The dictator would nominate his own deputy, or master of horse. Though all other magistrates continued to perform their duties, the authority of the dictator was virtually absolute, and so he was accompanied by 24 lictors. The dictatorship was not supposed to be utilised regularly, and so it was not considered to be a part of the Cursus Honorum. Only the richest of the rich could ever hope to be enrolled in the Senate, and only a select few of these would go on to achieve a senior magistracy, such as the Praetorship or the Consulship. For this reason, Roman politics was fiercely competitive. From an early age, the sons of aristocrats were encouraged to, at the very least, equal the achievements of their ancestors. Most would have aimed to better these achievements and raise the bar even higher for future generations. For those lucky enough to achieve the consulship, terms lasted for only a single year, and so the window for opportunity was short. Pressure to push through legislation in the face of obstruction by rivals was intense. And so, as the century progressed, intimidation and violence became an increasingly common part of Rome's political scene.